That's right, folks. Another playoff preview. This time, we're going to be breaking down the must-have tight ends and tight end combinations that you can stream to get you to the championship in your fantasy playoffs. Before we do, we want to make sure you follow us across the board at Razzball Fantasy on YouTube, IG, and TikTok. If you want to see some hip videos every week, hop over to TikTok. We got some great stuff on daily. We also have a podcast, so go to your Apple Podcasts and Spotify. We also have Razzball Fantasy on there. You're going for a jog, listen to a little bit of myself and my guest on the show today to talk about some streamer tight ends. And finally, make sure you go to Razzball.com. Like, Razzball.com is pretty cool last time I checked. It's pretty hip. We got some fantasy data. We got great writers who are just dropping knowledge every single day. And by the way, after football season, we do baseball, basketball, and hockey. So when you stay with Razzball all year long, and I lied, this is the final thing. And tomorrow, Sunday, make sure you on the Sunday Live Start Sit Show. We will be on for 2 hours before kickoff, answering your start sit questions. But we also break down starts of the week, streamers, injuries, banter, whatever you need, little laughter, we got it. But for today's show, we're going to break down some must start, some streamer defenses for the fantasy playoffs starting right now. All right, this lady doesn't need an introduction, but unfortunately, I'm obligated by law to introduce her. It's Gladys L. Tyler. You can follow her at Gladys L. Tyler on Twitter. What's on, Gladys?
Not much. It's in my contract, actually. He has to introduce me, or,
By the way, top 3 negotiations of all time, and that
it's what
Razzball negotiation. She did a great job forcing up our hand to give her the best deal she should get anywhere. That's why she's on the show, and that's why today she's on the show to talk about must-have tight ends, the playoff preview. Yesterday, myself and Sky did defenses. Last week, we talked about handcuffs that you should get on your teams. Now we're going to talk about, listen, not everybody has Mark Andrews and Travis Kelce, and some guys, like myself, had Zach Ertz, and other guys had Dallas Goedert. Now we're here getting to the playoffs, and we need to figure out ways to mishmash, either find a streamer and or find a couple guys to get you through the fantasy playoffs. Now, Gladys, before we even start, we have a couple segments before we start. I want to throw you foot to the fire. Do you have any tight end issues heading into your playoffs right now that you want to talk about?
No, actually. Tight end is probably the one spot, and that's because I go low and hope they have high ceilings. So, they stick around for a while. And okay. I'm a Steeler fan, and so I have Pat Freiermuth in just about every league I'm in. I went PF, yeah.
This is a great segue because we're going to talk quickly about stud tight ends. And what we've been doing the last few weeks is kind of talking quickly about those stud defenses, the tight ends, the guys that have gotten us to this point. And the question comes, can you trust them? We know Mark Andrews and Travis Kelce are locked and loaded. You're not sitting them no matter what. Even if Jesus Christ joins the Chiefs, you're still going to play Travis Kelce. And don't get me wrong, Jesus will be a great tight end too. And I'm not saying he won't. But my point is, outside of that, there's a couple guys we want to talk about. Yeah, we got TJ Hawkinson, David Njoku, George Kittle, Pat Freiermuth, Gerald Everett, and Dalton Schultz. These are kind of the hotter names right now. Njoku's kind of been in and out. Before we get on to the streamers, let's talk quickly about these guys. If you have one of these guys, are you starting them no matter what? You want to point, maybe you have a guy or two you want to talk about. Let's talk about these stud tight ends.
Let's talk about them. am I starting? Am I going first?
Go ahead. Yeah, go for it.
Oh, that's so sweet of you. It's so nice. I'm going to go Pat Freiermuth again because I have him and it's all personal for me. So it is. I'm not going to lie. Without Chase Claypool, once Chase Claypool went to Chicago, oh my God, that's so much easier said in my head. Freiermuth has a 23.3 target share and a 22.2% in zone target share. He is averaging 11.94 yards per reception, and he's only had 3 drops so far this year. He's had his touchdowns aren't exactly what you'd like, but I blame that on Matt Canada's, play calling. But you can trust him the rest of the way through. It used to be that Kenny Pickett had eyes for George Pickens. I think that Kenny Pickett's playing both. I think he's playing one against the other. I think he likes Pat Freiermuth too. I think he's going to show a lot of love. In 11 games, he has 76 targets and only 3 drops. Pat Fryermuth is the tight end that you want right now and forever to get you through the fantasy playoffs.
Yeah, so you got Carolina, the Raiders, and Baltimore.
And
You want to
Baltimore is
so
like 22nd in DVAA. They're allowing the third, fourth highest catch rate to tight ends. We all know the Raiders are just a hot mess right now. Derek Carr's
yeah,
crying.
Derek Carr gets emotional like every quarter,
He
like
does.
just because like and it works for 3 games and then they
And then
lose.
it's like, well,
He,
nah.
he should just start crying after wins and keep the winning streaks alive. Come on, Derek, get it together. So in PPR, the Panthers are a team that you're not intimidated on the
Who's your
surface,
fan?
but they're 23rd in fantasy points allowed to the tight end. So I just
And
think that when
I
you
think the Panthers too is skewed a little bit because didn't they just get back J.C. Horn and Jeremy Chin, who are
well, Horn's been
excellent?
kind of yeah.
Yeah.
You're
So
right.
it's a little bit better defense, but I'm still not worried that much about them.
Yeah, I think but let's go through these really quick because like
Okay.
Hawkinson, for example, has Indianapolis Colts, the Giants, and Green Bay. So like I think in my opinion, when you're looking at just look at I think there's a better thing for stud defense. Oh, sorry, word. Start over again. What I'm
Okay.
trying to say is I think there's only a handful of defenses when you get to these guys, when you get to the Hawkinsons and the Jokus, that next step down from the Kelsey and Andrews. I think you really just have to worry about some of the matchups. Like the Saints, the 49ers, the Commanders are 3 defenses that have been insanely good. Another
Buffalo
team
and
like
Jets too.
Buffalo's been very good as well. Now the Chicago Bears have been very good against tight ends this year. I don't know why, but they don't. It doesn't make any sense. But they've given up the 4th fewest fantasy points, and they're actually well below expectation. So I think when you're looking at these guys, it's more about like maybe if there's a week where they face the Saints, 49ers, the Commanders, maybe Buffalo, the Jets, the Bears. That's maybe the time where you say, okay, then you look and pivot to maybe one of these streamers. I think overall,
Yep.
those guys will get enough targets that you're going to get a 3 for 30. And that's probably all you can ask for when you're, streaming's just so difficult at the tight end position. Trust me, I have 2 ulcers right now, whatever they are. I have them. Whatever stomach issue
I
you
don't think
get
you
from
have to,
streaming
but
tight end, yeah, I got whatever issue I get from trying to stream tight ends all the time. But anyway, I think that's really it. So I think that's what it comes down to. Like, if I'm taking one of these guys, do they play one of those defenses? If they play San Francisco, if they play the Saints and the Commanders specifically, I think those are the 3 I'm going to probably avoid the most because they've been really good. Then the Bears seems a little fluky in my opinion, but the numbers are the numbers. They have been very good, even versus expectation. You brought up the Jets. I brought up the Buffalo Bills. Maybe those are the only matchups you fade them on. So just keep an eye on it. If you have one of these guys, the Hawkinson, Njoku, Kittle, Freiermuth, Everett, Schultz, if you have one of those guys, as long as they're not playing one of those ridiculously good tight end defenses, I think you roll with them. Do you agree or disagree?
I concur, sir.
All right, so let's move on. Tip of the hat to you, madame. All right, let's move on. All right, so the top matchups. So I think defense is the target is kind of the next one we want to talk about, and I think it's really important. These are the ones that these are the one defenses where streamer tight ends really matter. When you face a very bad against defense, some of this case is because a lot of the tight ends play in inline or in the slot. That's probably 99% of where they get their production from. And a lot of defenses are weaker up the middle. They have bad safeties. They don't have coverage linebackers. Even guys that play in the slot, they just might have a good slot matchup, whatever. So it really comes down to those guys. So for right off the bat, it's the Cardinals, the Lions, the Dolphins, the Seahawks, the Falcons, the Raiders, the Giants, and the Bucks. So I have identified 8 solid matchups. Now, if you just want to look at fantasy point score, I factor in expectation as well. You have the Cardinals, Seahawks, Dolphins are the 3 big ones. Those are the 3 really big matchups. Those are the matchups you really want to target. So Cardinals, Seahawks, Dolphins. Then the next tier down, in my opinion, goes Lions, Falcons, Raiders, Giants, Bucks. But overall, these are all good matchups. So before we dive in to the streamers for these defenses, do you have any thoughts about these defenses? Do you have any guys in mind that face these defenses before we start the streamers?
So here's the problem. I do. I have two guys in mind, but one of them is fantasy irrelevant. So
Yeah.
Ian Thomas has like two great
Oh, I
matchups,
know.
and
Yes, I have it in my notes. The Panthers are like
but
they would be amazing. What a waste of a fantasy
I
schedule. Oh my
know
god,
it
it's
is. It
crazy.
is such a waste of fantasy schedule, and he faces like Tampa Bay in Week 17, and he faces Seattle. If they would just throw him the ball, he would
Yeah.
be so good. So Ian Thomas is kind of like sort of there, but not really there. If you want to take that chance, go ahead.
Yeah.
I like. I actually like. I'm not going to say it because that's like your guy, but I like I like Hayden Hurst too. If he's healthy, Hayden
I
Hurst
remember,
has.
I think it's a ginger thing. People, I think this is a Matt. Matt did this to me a while ago. I never really I never flag planted Hayden Hurst ever. And then all of a sudden, Matt's like, he's a ginger. You're a ginger. You guys should be friends. And now all of a sudden, I am the Hayden Hurst guy. That's all that is. It's not like anything real. But yeah, sure. I hear you. Go ahead.
um, I'm like a simple person. I don't do expectations on the fantasy football. I just do the points that they've given up and the amount of touchdowns they've given up. So Arizona's given up 9 touchdowns. Arizona sucks against. Isn't that
Oh,
really
so
weird?
bad.
Because they were really bad, then they were really good, and now they're really bad against tight ends.
Oh, yeah.
It's like Cliff Kingsbury just needs to go. That's I'm gonna say that, and
All
I'm
right.
going to.
Well, here's just the thing, right? So it goes. This is in PPR. Cardinals 18.8 points per game allowed. Okay, that's doesn't for reference. The next team down is 16.6, and the average team is 11.5. So they are over 7 points more a game than the average defense.
That's
So
crazy.
yes, the Cardinals. It is wild. Yes,
But it's Hunter Henry, Dulcich from.
it's
If,
yeah.
if I could only trust Russell Wilson, but I would still play Greg Dulcich, K Dotton and Parker Hesse. If you have them, if you can stream, Dulcich might be a harder stream. K Dotton, I don't think is that going to be that hard of a stream. And Parker Hesse, you could probably just like pick him up that day, like 2 hours before the game, just pick and choose. Those would be my guys because they're all going against Arizona during your fantasy playoffs. If you can grab them, grab them. If you can grab them and stash them, grab and stash if you have room on your bench.
Let's talk about it really quick because this makes it the whole purpose of it. So the Cardinals have, like you said, Denver in week 15 with Greg Dulcich. Week 16 is Cade Otton, and week 17 is the Falcons. And the Falcons are another one. The Falcons will show up in this list a couple times where they don't have Kyle Pitts would have been awesome, but he's gone.
Exactly.
And now you're not going to play Anthony Ferguson or Michael Pruitt. So there's that. So I do think that Greg Dulcich is a nice player. He's kind of not necessarily a streamer tight end, but he is someone that's at least like right around 50% owned. The problem with Cade Otton, in my opinion, is that it always seems to be tied to if Cameron Brate plays. And if Cameron Brate's out, Cade Otton gets a bunch of routes and he plays pretty well. But when he's with Cameron Brate in, he's kind of hit or miss. So it's tempered the expectations there. But I wouldn't mind stashing Cade Otton on my bench. And if Brate's out or some news comes out, or if maybe the next 2 weeks Otton takes over the full-time role, that week 16 matchup will be absolutely awesome. The next one, I did lie. The Lions are in my upper tier. It's the Lions, Cardinals, Dolphins, and Seahawks. So I'm just going to talk about those schedules really quick. The Lions have week 15, the Jets. Can we trust Tyler Conklin? Probably not. CJ Uzama's involved now too. Mike White, it doesn't seem like it seems like with Elijah Moore getting more work too, and Corey Davis back, it's tougher to trust. Then you got Carolina, Ian Thomas / Tommy Tremble. Geez, can when you guys make it? And then the final one, week 17, is Cole Kmet. So Cole Kmet's someone you don't want to forget about too. The Lions are a very good matchup. The next tier down, Dolphins, the Buffalo Bills. Dawson Knox is a little more owned.
Wait, go back. You said
Go
forget about Cole Kmet? Is that what
No,
you said?
I meant no. I'm saying like I don't know why I said forget about Cole. I don't mean that at all. I don't know why I said forget about Cole Kmet. But Cole Kmet, yes, if you could get Cole Kmet in there. I just want to make sure I don't have his actual schedule in front of me. But that week 17 could be if you're in the championship and you have Cole Kmet, even if Justin Fields is still playing, motto to me, that'd be a hell of a duo. Anyway, Dolphins, Buffalo with Dawson Knox in week 15. Green Bay is Robert Tonyan in week 16. And then week 17 is Hunter Henry. So Hunter Henry, Robert Tonyan, Dawson Knox. That also talks about quickly about my favorite pair, which we'll talk about a little bit later. Seahawks get San Francisco, so you get George Kittle. Kansas City, Travis Kelce, you're not going to get him. And the last week's Tyler Conklin again. So Tyler Conklin, if you guys could just figure that out, he gets the Lions and the Seahawks in his playoff schedule. So yeah, there's a couple names in there that you could pick up and stream. But I do think like this week coming up is important to keep an eye on these guys, see how they're performing, maybe see if there's another, because we're going to talk about a player later, like a Kongwu, who is starting to emerge a little bit. You got Burks out. What's the deal with that receiving core? We're going to talk about too. So I think it's really important to keep, if you're streaming tight ends right now, keep an eye out and see how these guys are coming. Come back to the show. We'll talk about usage. We'll make sure you keep you guys up to date. Before any other comments about defenses to target before we jumped out to the streamers?
Yeah, on Cole Kmet, my advice would be only use him in week 17. He plays Buffalo in week 16 and Philly in week 15. And
there you go.
You don't want any you don't want any part of that.
No.
But
That's a good point.
On the defenses, I agree with what you said. Even in my simplification, in my simplified version of your mad scientist deep dive.
It's good. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful mesh to give. I start speaking words, you translate to the people. It's perfect. All right, I love it. All right,
those are the defenses to target if you can get those guys, and even if you can get them and stash them, especially if you're going into playoffs well, like in a good part, and you have like a first round bye or whatever. Think about stashing.
Yeah, I think the other thing too is, and when we talk about streamers now, we talk about with the defense, the handcuffs, and all this stuff.
Right.
It's time to cut the fat a little bit on your team. If you've been stashing like a wide receiver 5, like a Brandon Cooks and a Nico Collins, I don't want to throw any shade, but those guys aren't going to probably win you your league. Get rid of them and go get your handcuffs. Go get these, duplicate, get 2 tight ends on your roster if you've been streaming. Get a second defense. Like, there's no need. You're not going to be sitting Chris Godwin at any point now for Nico Collins, folks. So just see you later. And we also did talk about handcuffing wide receivers and tight ends. So if you do want to go check out that show, it's pretty cool. Me and Sky dive into that as well. Let's talk about the streamer tight end combos that we like. So here's like some of the teams that have really good schedules. You have the Jets, who have Detroit, Jacksonville, and Seattle. We just talked about Seattle, Detroit. I mean, the Jets, forget about it. Probably the best playoff schedule that you'll see. The Broncos have Arizona. You have LA and Kansas City, which aren't as good, but you do get that Arizona matchup. The Buccaneers do get Cincinnati, Arizona, and Carolina. We just talked about Panthers potentially being a little bit more vulnerable to tight ends because of their corners getting healthy and their secondary. The Falcons are another really good matchup, but who are we going to play there? So that's probably a pass. Panthers, same thing. Pittsburgh, by the way, still a good matchup. Detroit, Tampa Bay. I mean, wow. If Tommy Tremble and Ian Thomas, let's just bring this up. If Tommy Tremble and or Ian Thomas sustain an injury within the next week or two, remember this podcast and say, okay, I'm going to go get the other guy. If I've been struggling at tight end, and I'm telling you, they'll have a nice 4 for 50 week, and you'll get a nice 9 points in PPR, and you'll be saying, Gladys knew, and that other ginger guy knew what's going on.
And the ginger knew.
Patriots are another really good matchup. They have the Raiders and Miami Dolphins in their playoff schedule, and then the Packers have Miami and Minnesota, which is still a solid matchup too. Any thoughts? Pick a combo, pick a team. What's your thoughts here?
Okay, so I live out here in Denver, and there's talk, like no one knows what's going on, but Nathaniel Hackett has openly said that he would like to get Albert O a little more involved, which is going to take a hit to Dolch's value. My combo would be, if you have Dolch, to pick up Albert O as a handcuff, because I don't know, by getting him more involved, does that mean he's taking him off the field, or
is it 2 tight end sets?
Yeah, I don't,
because you got to remember that Cortland Sutton's banged up, Jerry Jeudy's been banged up, KJ Hamler's been banged up, so maybe he's like, we got to get more 2 tight end sets out there.
Yeah,
but Albert O's been like a healthy and active half the time, so
yeah, he has. So he's well rested. I mean, his legs are fresh. I don't know if that's going to count for anything if Russell Wilson can't get him the ball, but
they should. Just how bad, and they're bagged up at both tackles too. So why not just do a 2 tight end set, maximize protection, have one guy go out, the other guy stays in block sometimes. But I think Dolchich, who you would think would be the more of the pass catcher, but No,
Yeah.
not a bad idea, I
Yeah.
guess, but go ahead. I don't know. After Arizona, so week 15, okay. But like week 16 and 17, they got the Chiefs. I feel like the Chiefs could be like garbage time, maybe. Like, you got the
They
problem with
play the Chiefs today, so we'll see.
yeah, true. Good point. They put tomorrow. Wait, we're at
I mean,
Saturday.
tomorrow. Sorry.
Saturday. Jesus,
Ugh.
Gladys. I mean, hold on. We should be doing a start sit show if it's Sunday. What are we doing?
Yeah,
No,
they
I
play.
think no.
I,
So my only thought process. The problem we talked about this on yesterday's show. I said like the Broncos and the Rams are going to be tough for the rest of the season because their offenses are bad, but their defenses are good. And
Right.
that's not a good recipe for fantasy football. Like you want if you have like a bad offense, you don't want to have a good defense because then there's going to be a lot of 17-13, 17, 10, 20 to 13 games. That's not really great for fantasy. That really limits possibilities. So as much as I want to pretend like the Arizona matchup is tough to ignore because it's by far the best matchup. But after that, you can see the Rams Broncos game could be ugly. Like that game could be that's like 13-10 written all over it, folks. And I don't know if I'm going to be too excited there, but I hear you on that. Not a bad idea to just have it as a stash maybe for this week. Maybe Alberto does take the starting job. And then you got a starter week 15. You're not wrong there. So that's not a bad thought process. But is there any like other combinations of players that you would want to talk about?
Yeah.
You got a Kongwu, right? You want to talk about a
Yeah,
Kongwu?
but I wanted to pair him with the Carolina guys if one of them could show up because they're.
That's not gonna happen.
I mean, it's week 14. You still have hope. There's week 14. You still have hope. But
me and Sky talked about the Lions defense yesterday, so nothing is off the table. So you can talk about whatever you want.
I'm going to call him CO because I don't know how to pronounce his name. The Tennessee. All right, you do what you want. The Tennessee tight end has his stats are skewed because at the beginning of the season he was basically not used, and then in the last 3 games he's had 5 targets, 2 targets, and the 5 targets and 68 receptions was against Philly, which they're not a bad defense. Everyone knows he's got a 52.8% snap share. And he runs 50% of the routes. So he had 10.8 fantasy points against Philly. No Treylon Burks. Treylon Burks is, I think, in the concussion protocol, which we know now could mean that he doesn't come back. I mean, I'm not throwing that out there in the universe. I want him to come back, so I'm taking that back. But the concussion protocol is wacky. And their offensive line sucks, which is hurting Derrick Henry. So Ryan Tannehill is having to pass the ball, although having to pass the ball for Ryan Tannehill means like 24 passes a game. But if like 6 or 8 of those are going to CO, that's a good fantasy matchup for him. I mean, I like him. I think you should pick him up now for even this week, actually, to play, and then hold on to him and see what happens because I think this week he is going to get the lion's share. The lion's share. Who am I talking about? The Vikings. He's going to get the Titan share, the Titan share of.
There you go.
The Titan share of the passing because what do you got? You got Robert Woods and you got the other one whose name I can't pronounce.
Yeah, Nick Westbrook-Akine. So yeah,
oh my God, say that again.
Nick Westbrook-Akine.
Nice.
Yeah, I've struggled so much that I've somehow started saying names right. It's like you come full circle. I did the name so wrong that I just somehow wrap around. Now I'm saying it right. Okongwu, yeah, had 20 routes last week. He was 4th on the team, just 1 behind Austin Hooper. 5 targets, 4 receptions, 68 yards. A lot of that has to do with the fact that they don't have depth now. Treylon Burks is out. Treylon Burks went down early. He only ran 7 routes in that game. They went 2 tight end heavy. Because outside of Akine and Woods, they don't really have another wide receiver now because Kyle Phillips is still out. So, yeah. And the Jaguars are an average matchup. They're right in the middle. They are a beatable matchup. And then they get the Chargers right after that, who are another team that is, you could beat them. They are both okay matchups. So I don't mind, especially this might not be a playoff one, but this might be just get into the playoffs. If you need an X factor this week at the tight end, I might just go pick them up, honestly, at this point. Because at this point, I need some fun. I need to have some fun out there. with the tight ends because I'm just tired of the 1 point that I've averaged over the last 2 weeks. It's not about me. It's about the people right now.
It's
Anyway,
not about you.
I
It's
know,
always
but it
about you.
should
It's
be.
always
It
about
should
you.
be. It should be. It should be called Bob Ball or something. I don't know. Anyway, here's a combo that I really like, and I've talked about this a little bit. It's the Patriots with Hunter Henry, and then the Packers with Robert Tonyan. You can get your hands on both these guys. They're both outside the top 12 in ownership on Yahoo. The Patriots get the Raiders in week 15, which is a very good matchup. Then they have a little bit of a tougher one against Cincinnati, but that game could be fun if Joe Burrow's doing his thing. And then you get Miami in week 17. That's pretty good. But that week 16 matchup, if you don't want to play him against Cincinnati, you could pair him with Robert Tonyan, who gets Miami, another really good matchup. So I actually do like both these guys. They're both neither of them are the focal point of their offenses in any way, but they're both decently involved at the tight end position, enough to where they can exploit bad matchups. So I do think that that's a really good combo. I trust them a lot more than the Tyler Conklins of the world. Cade Otton, in my opinion, wouldn't be bad. If I knew Cade Otton was going to be the starter, I'd rather have Hunter Henry and Cade Otton than Hunter Henry and Robert Tonyan. But I just don't know yet. Another guy I want to look at is Jordan Akins. Now, the matchups aren't necessarily really good for Akins, but here's just a fun fact. First of all, you got no Nico Collins this week and Brandon Cooks. We don't really know what the direction of this Texans offense is going to be over the next final few weeks. We have no idea. We at least know that Davis Mills will be back there, but you could see them shut down Brandon Cooks at least, because Nico, they need to at least get some more reps in with Davis Mills to see if they can connect. Brandon Cooks, who knows? He's been in and out of the lineup, but Jordan Akins has been someone who's popped up for a decent game here and there when he gets more routes. He was third on the team in routes just last week. He had 5 targets in that game. So if you're looking for someone that could potentially help you get in, so Houston gets Dallas, which is tough this week, but then they get Kansas City, the Titans, and Jacksonville. I'm not overly scared off by any of those. Like I said, the Chiefs are always a team where they're going to put up their points. So at least you could count on, hey, a couple dump downs to your tight end. I'll take 5 for 40. I'm good to go. So I just think he's a name to monitor too. Any final thoughts before we close the show, Gladys?
I like the Jordan Akins call. He has 6 red zone targets. He's got 220 yards after the catch, which is like 6th among tight ends. Like you said, Brandon Cooks he's in Cabo, like mentally. He's just not there anymore. Cabo. And Nico Collins is I don't know that they'll play Nico Collins because I don't think they're going to stick with Davis Mills. So I don't know that Nico Collins is going to come back. So if Davis Mills is going to have to throw the ball because we know they're going to be behind. Akins is going to should be the beneficiary of that windfall. But again, it's the Texans, and it's like the Broncos. You have no friggin' idea what's going to happen.
I think the other thing that worries me just a little, so like the Jordan Akins call, I like the idea of potentially streaming him because of the no Cooks and no Collins. But when you look at the Dallas Cowboys, they've been very good against tight ends. Like they like, for example, Tyler Higbee saw 10 targets and only turned it into 46 yards. Dallas Goedert 5 targets, 22 yards. TJ Hawkinson 5 targets, 48 yards. We're talking about some of the better tight end options in football. Didn't even get over 50 yards. And those are guys that are featured in their offenses. So the only thing I do love about the Texans is that their defense is like starting to spring a leak a little bit, because the problem early on in the season, they were getting crushed on the run, but they were decent against the pass. And that just takes the game out of the other offense's hand, like the Texans offense's hands. But because Derek Singletary Jr. has been out the last couple of weeks, they've been a little more susceptible in the passing game. But overall, I just feel like I want my streamer tight end to be at least maybe third or fourth, ideally at the least in routes run on the team. That's like the Tanyans and the Hunter Henrys.
Are you worried that maybe they start losing, that Jordan Love will come in for Aaron Rodgers and would devalue Robert Tonyan slightly?
The problem is I don't know anything. I don't know what Jordan Love brings.
Right.
Because he looked okay against Philly.
Yeah.
I mean, he came in and he actually threw a touchdown pass strike. It was not too bad to Watson. People are saying he looks better. He looked better in the preseason. But is he Aaron Rodgers? No. But Aaron Rodgers with a broken thumb has been not that Aaron Rodgers-esque either. I think the other thing too is I don't know what to expect other than I know the offense has allowed Tanyan to put up decent games, and he had a top 10 season just a few years ago. This is not a scenario I want to be in. I really don't. I just said I'd rather have Hunter Henry and Cade Otton as a duo if I knew Cade Otton was going to get the reps. But I will say, I just want to make sure that they have, like, Dawson Knox. This is just a rant. I'm sorry. We're at the 30th minute. Here's a slight rant. Dawson Knox I think it was last week or 2 weeks ago, had 0 points against the New England Patriots. And I get it. The Patriots you don't think of them as a team that you would target, right? But the Patriots are very good they're very, very good matchup for tight ends. They're like, at the time, they were inside like the top 10. And I'm like, okay, let's do this. Dawson Knox, get it done. We're going to have a great day. 0 freaking points. So I don't know. This haunts my dreams. 1 target, 0 catches, 0 yards. And that's supposed to be a good matchup, right? So I almost feel like here's my stupid analysis, throw some shit against the wall thought process. I want to aim for shootouts. I want my tight end to have a bad defense. I want them to be able to get blown up on. Like the Patriots and the Packers defenses are average. They both have their moments, but they've both been susceptible at times. But, like, listen, Cole Kmet, you can say what you want about his matchups. I know the Bears' defenses are horrific. I know the Raiders' defense is horrific. If Darren Waller somehow hit waivers, go get Darren Waller, because I just feel like that's my tiebreaker in this whole thought process. But, yes, if I can get Hunter Henry, he's probably my ideal pick up here. Pair him with a Cade Otton / wow, was my thought. Robert Tanyan. But keep an eye on Okongwu and Jordan Akins. Those are our sleeper guys, I think, that could see a lot more work over the final few weeks. But overall, it's tough, man. And listen, I'm coming from a point of pain. Like, I have literally tried. I have all the spreadsheets, all the thoughts, and I have hit rock bottom my last 2 weeks in tight end streamers. Tyler Conklin, dud. In a revenge game, by the way. Tyler, the Vikings gave up on you and you put up 1.9 points? Come on, man. Whatever. Anyway, sorry, Gladys. Any final thoughts before we close?
I don't even know how to follow that. I don't even know if that can be followed.
Perfect. All right, that's it, man. That's the rest of the episode. That's must-have tight ends for fantasy football playoff preview. Gladys, before we close the show, is there anything that you want to promote? Any articles came out? Anything you want to talk about before we leave?
I just had 2 articles drop. One on going for 2 start-sit article. Look me up on Twitter at Gladys L. Tyler, and it should be on my timeline or a timeline. And then a GPP article for DraftKings for Gridiron Experts that I believe dropped this morning. Look it up. It's there, Gridiron Experts. And, of course, my Razzball defensive lines versus the offensive line article. You need to look at that, because that's really important, especially for your running backs and for your wide receivers. So look up the defensive line article on Razzball, because, it's pretty spectacular. Well, it's not spectacular. It's okay.
It's spectacular. I don't know what she's
it's
talking about. Anyway,
okay.
also, yes, but also we have the adjusted line yards matchup metrics. So you pair that with Gladys. So we have a bunch of information about that stuff. These X factors, these little tweaks, these final start sit questions you might have. We have the information over on Razzball.com. Make sure you're following us across the board at Razzball Fantasy on YouTube, IG, and TikTok. And of course, make sure you go to Razzball.com.
One more thing.
Sorry, Gladys. One more thing, Gladys.
One more thing. You guys, this week is kind of weird on wide receivers, if you should play like Christian Kirk or Zay Jones. Go to Razzball, because that's what I just did before I came on. That's why I was kind of late.
There you go.
Go to Razzball, slot versus wide, and it will help you decide whether Christian Kirk or Zay Jones is your play. Jamar Chase is always a play, but whether T. Higgins is going to get anything, go do it. Do it now. Run.
Thank you, Gladys.
Don't walk. Run.
Better than I could have done it, Gladys. We appreciate it. That's it. Of course, make sure you join us tomorrow on the Razzball Fantasy Football YouTube Start Sit Show, wherever you want to call it. We're live for 2 hours. Answer your Start Sit questions, so go join us on there as well. Once again, I'm your host, Bobby Lamarco. You can follow me at Bobby Lamarco on Twitter. I want to thank Gladys once again for being on the show. You can follow her at Gladys L. Tyler on Twitter. We are out of here. Folks. Let me just hit that end note.